My name is Olivia Carter. I'm 29 years old, an Army medic, and the kind of woman who wears other people's emergencies like second skin. If someone's bleeding, I'm there. If someone's panicking, I keep my voice steady. But what no one tells you is that when the uniform comes off at night, the weight of all those lives you held in your hands doesn't magically go away. You carry it like a second rucksack strapped to your soul. I grew up in North Carolina, in a quiet town where Friday night football was the big event and gossip traveled faster than the mail. My mom raised me after my dad passed away when I was 12, and she worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat. I joined the Army partly to make her proud, partly to give us both a better life, and partly because I needed to prove to myself that I could be more than just another small-town girl who never left. Before I go further, let me pause for a quick second. If this story so far pulls at something inside you, maybe you've been betrayed, maybe you've served, maybe you know what it feels like to leave home and come back to something different, go ahead and like this video, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss the next chapters. And in the comments, tell me where you're watching from. I'd love to know. Now, back to where it all began. I've always been the responsible one. The kind of friend who shows up on time, remembers your birthday, and covers the bill if you're short. And my best friend Rachel. God, where do I start with her? Rachel and I met in 7th grade, 2 awkward girls who didn't fit in with the cheerleaders or the tough kids. She had wild, curly red hair, and a laugh that could make you feel like you'd just been let in on the best secret in the world. For years, she was my anchor. When I enlisted, she was the one who threw me the biggest send-off party. When I graduated medic school, she cried harder than my mom did. So when deployment orders came down for Kuwait, it felt natural, almost automatic, that I asked Rachel to be my emergency contact. She had a spare key to my house, access to my accounts so bills would get paid, and my full trust. I didn't think twice. Why would I? She was more than a friend. She was my chosen sister. The day I shipped out, Rachel hugged me so tight, I thought my ribs might crack. "I got you, Liv," she whispered in my ear. "Don't you worry about a damn thing back home." And I believed her. Deployment is a strange kind of exile. Time doesn't move in weeks or months, it moves in fragments. Long stretches of heat and sand where every day looks the same, broken up by sharp moments of adrenaline, a patient coding, a blast in the distance, a call that someone's unit got hit. You live in the middle of extremes, boredom so deep you could drown in it, fear so sharp it slices through your calm like glass. I try to keep my mind on the job, but late at night, lying on a cot in a tent half a world away, my thoughts always drifted home. To my mom, who I worried wasn't eating enough. To my porch swing, creaking in the Carolina breeze. And always to Rachel. I'd scroll through her emails when I could, reread her jokes about bad dates, her updates about small-town drama, her little reminders that she was paying my power bill and mowing my lawn. But then the emails started coming less often. At first, it was once a week, then once every 2 weeks, then barely at all. When we did connect, she sounded rushed. "Sorry, Liv, I've just been busy," she'd say, her voice sharp around the edges. I told myself it was nothing. People have lives. People get distracted. Still, something in me tightened. A little warning bell I ignored because I didn't want to believe it. There's a certain irony to serving your country. You train for every possible scenario on the battlefield. Hemorrhage control, airway collapse, even how to shield your buddy from shrapnel. But there's no manual for protecting yourself from what's happening back home while you're gone. No drill sergeant ever pulled me aside and said, "Here's how to deal with betrayal." When the deployment ended 9 months later, I came back with sand in my boots, calluses on my hands, and a chest full of pride. I had made it through. My unit had made it through. I was ready for home-cooked meals, laughter, the comfort of my mom's voice, and Rachel's familiar hug. Instead, I came home to silence. My porch was piled high with unopened bills. My grass was knee-high. My car battery was dead. And inside my house, dust coated the furniture like no one had lived there in months. I stood there, duffel bag still slung over my shoulder, staring at the mess, my gut sinking lower with each step I took. When I checked my mail, I found late notices, overdue warnings, a letter threatening to shut off my utilities. I knew. Rachel had been handling all of this. That's what we'd agreed. That's what she'd promised. Confused, I rushed to check my bank account. And that's when my world cracked. Nearly $40,000 gone. Not missing in the sense of an accounting error. Spent. Withdrawn. Siphoned little by little over the months until almost everything I had worked for was drained. I remember sitting there in my dark kitchen, still in my uniform, staring at the computer screen like maybe if I blinked enough, the numbers would rearrange themselves. But they didn't. The reality was simple. My best friend, the person I trusted more than anyone, had taken everything. And the sickest part? She knew I'd find out the moment I came home. I heard her before I saw her. Olivia. Rachel's voice rang out from the driveway. A second later, she was inside, her arms wide, her face painted in excitement like she hadn't just gutted my entire life. She hugged me tight, kissed my cheek, and said, "I missed you so much." I stood stiff in her arms, the betrayal fresh, raw, and bleeding inside me. That's where chapter 1 leaves off, me standing in the wreckage of trust, looking at the person I thought I knew best, wondering how deep the knife went and how long she'd been twisting it. My best friend's perfume hit me before her hug did. Sweet, floral, too familiar. For a second, I thought my body might melt into hers out of old habit, but the numbers from my bank account were still carved into my brain like a scar I couldn't rub away. 40,000 gone. Years of discipline, saving, sacrificing evaporated. She squeezed me, all smiles, as if nothing had happened. God, Liv, you look amazing. Deployment couldn't touch you. Huh. She leaned back, giving me a quick once-over, her grin a little too wide, her eyes a little too bright. I wanted to scream. Instead, I stood frozen, jaw clenched, heart hammering so loud it drowned out her words. "Rachel," I said finally, my voice lower than I expected. "What happened to my house?" She blinked, caught off guard, then laughed like I'd just made a joke. "Oh, you know how life gets. I came by when I could, but work's been insane, and my car's been acting up. I kept meaning to mow, but then, look at this grass. It grows like it's on steroids." She breezed past me into the kitchen, setting her purse on the counter like she owned the place. I followed, silent, watching as she opened my fridge, frowning at the emptiness. "You need to go grocery shopping, girl," she said, shaking her head. Something in me snapped. "Rachel, don't play dumb with me. My bills weren't paid. My accounts are empty. What the hell happened while I was gone?" Her shoulders stiffened, just for a second. Then she turned slowly, resting against the counter, arms crossed like I was the one who owed her answers. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said flatly. Don't lie to me. I saw the withdrawals. Thousands, Rachel. Thousands." My voice cracked, anger and grief colliding inside me. "You were supposed to take care of things. You promised." Her eyes flickered. Shame? No. Something harder. Something colder. "I did take care of things," she said, her chin tilting up. "Do you know how hard it was, Liv? Holding down the fort while you were off playing hero? I had to keep this place safe, keep your life running. Do you think that's free?" My jaw dropped. "Are you seriously trying to justify stealing from me?" She rolled her eyes. "Stealing? Please. You act like I drained you dry in one night. It wasn't like that. I just borrowed. I needed help. And honestly, you owe me. All those years I was here for you. All the times I picked you up when you were down. Consider this me finally evening the score." Her words hit harder than any explosion overseas ever could. "Owe her? After everything? You think friendship is a balance sheet?" I asked, my voice shaking now, less from fear than pure fury. "You think because you are my friend, you're entitled to everything I've worked for?" She shrugged, casual, like she was talking about borrowing a sweater. "Don't act so surprised. You've always had more than me. More discipline, more praise, more purpose. And you never even saw it. You never saw how people compared us. Do you know what it feels like to be the sidekick in your best friend's story? To watch you get respect just for putting on a uniform while I'm stuck working dead-end jobs. I stared at her, realization dawning like a sunrise I never wanted. All those years of laughter, late-night talks, shared secrets, had it all been poisoned by jealousy simmering underneath? You could have asked me for help, I whispered. I would have given it, gladly, but you chose this. You stole from me. Rachel's mouth twisted. Asking is begging. I'm not a beggar. And don't act like you're some saint. You joined the army to escape this town, to leave all of us behind. Don't preach loyalty when you left me here. The room spun. I gripped the counter just to stay upright. Her words clawed at my chest, but underneath the pain, something colder was hardening. She wasn't sorry. Not even close. I thought back to all the times I defended her. The time she crashed my car, and I covered the repairs without a word. The time she couldn't make rent, and I slipped her money so she wouldn't get evicted. Every time I told my mom, Rachel's just going through a hard time, she'll bounce back. God, I'd been a fool. You're unbelievable, I said finally, my voice low, steady now. You betrayed me while I was risking my life. And now you stand here in my kitchen acting like I deserved it. Rachel pushed off the counter, grabbing her purse. You know what, Liv? Believe what you want. I don't have time for this guilt trip. She slung her bag over her shoulder, striding toward the door. You'll pay for this, I said, my words sharp enough to cut. She paused, hand on the knob, and glanced back at me with a smirk that made my blood run hot. Good luck proving it, she said. You're too soft for that. Always have been. Then she was gone, her car engine roaring to life outside, leaving me standing in the hollow silence of my wrecked home. I sank into a chair, burying my face in my hands. My chest heaved, a mix of rage and heartbreak pouring out of me in sobs I couldn't stop. I'd faced mortar fire with steadier nerves than this. On the battlefield, you know the enemy when you see him. Back home, the enemy wears your best friend's smile. The days that followed blurred together in a haze of paperwork and despair. I called the bank, filed fraud claims, dug through months of statements. Every transaction told a story: expensive dinners, hotel stays, shopping sprees. Rachel hadn't just taken money, she'd flaunted it. One line item nearly broke me, a luxury vacation package to Miami, right around the time I was pulling 12-hour shifts in the desert. While I was patching up wounded soldiers under the scorching sun, she was sipping cocktails on a beach bought with my sweat. I couldn't tell my mom. Not yet. She already carried enough worry on her shoulders. I didn't want her to look at me with that mix of pity and disappointment, so I carried it alone, stuffing down the rage until it threatened to eat me alive. But at night, when the house creaked and the shadows grew long, I replayed Rachel's smirk in my head. Her words, her audacity, "You owe me." And each time, the same thought burned hotter. I will make her regret this. The night after Rachel walked out of my house, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling fans spinning slow circles, each turn whispering a reminder. She stole from you. She mocked you. She walked away without a shred of guilt. My chest felt hollow, like she'd scooped out everything good inside me and left only rage. The house didn't feel like home anymore. Every corner screamed betrayal. The empty fridge, the piles of unopened bills, even the dead battery in my car, each one a scar she left behind. I wandered from room to room like a ghost, flicking on lights, touching furniture, opening drawers, as though proof of her theft might still be hiding somewhere. But I already knew where it was, in those drained accounts, in the receipts she probably laughed over with her boyfriend while I was sweating under foreign skies. By morning I was raw. My eyes burned from crying, my throat ached from holding back screams. I dragged myself into the shower, let the water pound over me until my skin was red, but it didn't wash anything away. The anger clung, sticky and suffocating. I made coffee I didn't drink. I sat at the kitchen table staring at my laptop, the cursor blinking like it was mocking me. Finally, I logged back into my account. The numbers didn't change. Still empty. Still gone. I clicked through the statements, each withdrawal like a stab. 200 here, 500 there, 1,000 for a weekend getaway. The amounts added up to the kind of total that could crush a person. And it had crushed me. The sickest part? She didn't even try to hide it. Her name was on everything. Her card swiping, her transfers to her personal account. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't confusion. It was deliberate. I closed the laptop and buried my face in my hands. My body shook with sobs that didn't sound like me. They were rough, jagged, animal sounds. I thought about the desert nights overseas, when I'd write her emails between treating patients, clinging to the idea that I had someone waiting at home who cared. She probably read them while lounging on my dime, rolling her eyes at my loyalty. The betrayal cut deeper than the theft. Money can be earned again. But trust? That kind of trust only grows once, watered by years of friendship, and when it's burned, it doesn't come back. I tried to distract myself. I cleaned. I scrubbed the counters until my knuckles cracked. I dragged the mower out and fought through the tall grass, sweat dripping into my eyes, legs trembling. But no matter how much I moved, no matter how many tasks I tackled, the thoughts followed me. Why, Rachel? Why wasn't I enough as a friend? Why wasn't my loyalty enough? By late afternoon, my mom called. Her voice was warm, worried. Baby, are you settling back in? Do you need me to come by? I swallowed hard, forcing cheer into my tone. I'm okay, Mom. Just tired. Still adjusting. I couldn't tell her. Not yet. She'd look at me with those soft, sad eyes, the ones she used after my dad died, and I couldn't handle that weight on top of my own. After the call, I collapsed on the couch and let the silence eat me alive. Every creak of the house sounded like Rachel's laugh echoing through the walls. Every shadow in the corner looked like her smirk. I hated myself for missing her even as I hated her for what she did. How twisted is that? Missing someone who gutted you? That night, I dreamed of confrontation. In my sleep, I chased her through streets lined with sand and smoke. I called her name, but she ran faster, always just out of reach. When I finally grabbed her arm, she turned, and it wasn't Rachel's face at all. It was mine. My reflection staring back, eyes hollow, mouth twisted into that same smirk. I woke up screaming. Days bled together. I tried to find normalcy, taking shifts at the VA hospital, patching up veterans, listening to stories of their own losses. But even at work, the betrayal shadowed me. Every time a patient thanked me for saving their life, I thought, and yet I couldn't even save myself for my best friend. At night, I went back to the laptop, over and over, scrolling through the transactions, memorizing each one like battle scars. I told myself it was masochism, but deep down I knew I was cataloging, gathering evidence. My brain worked like it did on deployment, assess the situation, gather intel, prepare for the next move. One evening, I couldn't resist. I typed her name into Facebook. There she was, grinning in photos I hadn't seen before. Her arm draped around a man I didn't know, her hair styled, nails done, a new handbag on her shoulder. My money painted across every pixel. She captioned one picture, living my best life. My stomach turned. I wanted to throw the laptop across the room. Instead, I saved the photos. Screenshots, evidence, proof. If she thought I was too soft to do anything, she was wrong. But it wasn't just about courts or money anymore. It was about dignity. It was about showing her she couldn't strip me bare and walk away smiling. I tried to confront her again, a week after I got home. I called, but she didn't answer. I drove by her place, the little rental on the edge of town. Her car was in the driveway, but she didn't come to the door. Curtains twitched, she saw me. She was hiding. That rejection cut deeper than our last conversation. She wasn't even pretending anymore. She wasn't my friend, wasn't even pretending to care. She was just a thief in plain sight, arrogant enough to think I couldn't touch her. On the drive back, my hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles whitened. I could hear my sergeant's voice in my head. Anger without direction is wasted energy. Channel it. Use it. I realized then that this wasn't just grief. It wasn't just heartbreak. It was war. And I was done losing battles. But war requires strategy. So I started small. I went through every drawer in my house, gathering old paperwork, bank statements, signed documents where I'd given her access, every email where she'd confirmed she was handling things. I organized them in folders, color-coded, like I was prepping for a mission briefing. I reached out quietly to people we both knew. Casual conversations, slipping in questions. Hey, have you seen Rachel lately? She seems different. The responses trickled in. Stories of her flashing new jewelry, showing off a new phone, bragging about trips, asking to borrow money and never paying back. Each story was another puzzle piece clicking into place. She hadn't just betrayed me. She'd been bleeding others too. She was a parasite, dressed up as a friend. The weight of the betrayal pressed heavier with each revelation, but alongside it grew something new. Resolve. I wasn't going to let her skip away untouched. One night, sitting at the kitchen table surrounded by papers and screenshots, I caught my reflection in the window. My face looked older, sharper. Deployment had carved lines into me, but betrayal had etched something deeper. I didn't look like the woman who left 9 months ago. I looked like someone who'd been stripped raw and was now building new armor from the wreckage. And for the first time since I got home, I smiled. Not because I was happy, God no, but because I finally felt the shift inside me. The part of me that had sobbed on the kitchen floor was dead. What was left was colder, clearer. Rachel thought I was soft. She thought I'd swallow this betrayal and move on. She had no idea who she was dealing with. I closed the laptop, stacked the folders neatly, and whispered to the empty room, "You picked the wrong person to betray." Sleep came easier that night, but my dreams weren't peaceful. They were sharp, focused, like my mind was running war games in the background. Planning, anticipating, preparing. When I woke, the plan wasn't fully formed yet, but the fire was there, steady and strong. I wasn't just Olivia the medic anymore. I was Olivia the survivor. Olivia the betrayed. Olivia who was ready to fight back. And I swore to myself, she was going to regret underestimating me. Rachel didn't just steal my money. She stole the version of me that believed in her. That's what I kept thinking as the days passed, each one darker than the last. I could have lived with the loss of cash, even the empty accounts. Money could be rebuilt. But trust? Trust was the foundation of everything we had, and she'd reduced it to rubble, laughing while she did it. I told myself I wouldn't go looking for her again, that if she wanted to hide behind her curtains, so be it. But then I saw her. It was at the diner on Main Street, the place we used to haunt in high school when fries and milkshakes were all we could afford. I stopped there one afternoon after a shift at the VA, bone-tired, still in my scrubs. And there she was, sitting in the corner booth with her new boyfriend, the one I'd seen in those Facebook photos. He was broad-shouldered, tattooed, the kind of man who looked like trouble but thought he was a prize. Rachel was laughing loud enough for the whole place to hear, flipping her hair, her hand sliding over his. I froze at the door. She saw me instantly. Our eyes locked, and her smile faltered just for a heartbeat. But then she leaned in closer to him, whispering something that made him grin, and she went right back to her loud performance. She wanted me to see. She wanted me to know she wasn't hiding. I sat down at the counter instead of walking out. My stomach churned, but I forced myself to sip coffee, to breathe slow, steady breaths. She wasn't going to chase me out of a place that belonged to my memories too. Eventually, she slid out of the booth and sauntered over, hips swaying like she was on a runway. She leaned on the counter next to me, close enough for her perfume to sting my nose. "Well, look who finally crawled out of her cave," she said lightly, as though we were still best friends catching up after months apart. I turned my head slowly, met her eyes. "Why, Rachel?" My voice cracked, raw and low, but it carried enough weight that the smile slipped from her lips. She tilted her head, feigning innocence. "Why what? You know what? Why'd you do it? Why take everything I worked for? Why throw away 20 years of friendship?" Her eyes hardened. The mask dropped. "Because I was tired of living in your shadow, Olivia. Do you know what it's like to always be second best? To always be the friend, never the star? You came back from deployment, and people lined up to thank you, to hug you. Nobody notices me. Nobody ever has. I swallowed the lump in my throat. So, you thought stealing from me would make you shine? Her laugh was sharp, cruel. Stealing? God, you're dramatic. I deserved that money. I earned it being your backup all these years. While you were out playing soldier, I kept your life from falling apart. If I hadn't been here, your house would have rotted, your bills would have piled up, your credit destroyed. You should be thanking me. The room spun. She wasn't just unrepentant, she was proud. She believed every poisonous word spilling from her mouth. You're delusional, I whispered. No, I'm free. She straightened, her voice rising. For once, I'm living. I'm not scraping by while you get medals pinned on your chest. I'm not the sad friend waiting by the phone for a letter. I'm done being background noise in your life. That money, that was my ticket out. My chest heaved every breath of battle. You betrayed me while I was overseas saving lives. You used my trust like a credit card you never planned to pay back. She leaned in close, her voice dropping to a hiss only I could hear. And I do it again, because you'll never stop me. You don't have it in you. Her words sliced through me, cold and final. She pulled back, smirked, and walked out the door, her boyfriend's arms slung around her waist like a prize ribbon. I sat frozen, fists clenched so tight my nails drew blood. Around me, the diner's chatter went on as if nothing had happened, but inside me, something was breaking. Or maybe something was being born. I left the diner shaking, my heart pounding in my ears. The air outside was sharp, the sun blinding. I leaned against my car, gasping, trying to hold back the tears, but they came anyway. Hot, bitter, relentless. I wasn't crying for the money anymore. I wasn't even crying for the friendship. I was crying because I'd finally seen her for what she really was, a stranger wearing the face of the girl I once loved like family. That night, the rage twisted tighter. I couldn't stop replaying her words. I'd do it again. You'll never stop me. She thought I was weak. She thought my kindness made me soft, my loyalty made me blind. She thought the uniform I wore, the life I'd risked, meant nothing. She had no idea what I was capable of. The next day, I drove to the bank. I sat with the manager, laid out the account activity, signed the forms to dispute the charges. He nodded, sympathetic but cautious. It's going to be a long process, he warned. And with her having authorized access, it may be difficult. Authorized. That word stabbed deeper than I expected. Yes, I had trusted her. I had given her the keys. But authorization doesn't mean exploitation. I left the bank with a folder of paperwork and a fire in my chest. I started digging. Every night after work, I sat at my kitchen table surrounded by papers, my laptop glowing in the dark. I tracked every dollar she spent, every date, every location. I lined them up against her social media posts. There she was, in a new dress at a concert, right after a $600 withdrawal. There she was, clinking glasses in Miami, paid for by a $2,000 transfer. Each piece of evidence wasn't just proof, it was fuel. But the hardest part came when mutual friends reached out. Word had started spreading, whispers of what she'd done. Some defended her, saying she must have had a reason. Others admitted they'd lent her money and never seen it back. One even told me she'd bragged about finally taking what she deserved. Every story added another layer to my fury. She hadn't stumbled into this betrayal. She'd reveled in it. She wore it like armor. I kept quiet. I didn't scream on social media, didn't confront her again in public. I waited, because I understood something Rachel didn't. Patience is its own weapon. In the army, we learned that rushing in blind gets you killed. Victory comes to those who plan, who bide their time, who strike only when the enemy believes they're untouchable. And Rachel believed she was untouchable. Weeks passed, but my resolve only sharpened. I saw her around town sometimes, at the grocery store, at the gas station. She strutted, head high, flashing her new purse or laughing too loud. And each time, she glanced at me with that same smug look, daring me to do something. I never gave her the satisfaction. I nodded politely, walked away, kept my fury locked tight inside. Let her think she'd won. Let her believe I was broken. Because what she didn't know was that I was building something stronger than revenge. I was building justice. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky orange, I sat on my porch swing with a notebook in my lap. I wrote her name at the top of the page. Then, beneath it, I wrote one simple sentence. She thinks I'm weak. She has no idea. I stared at the words until they blurred, and I whispered them out loud, letting the wind carry them into the night. My hands stopped shaking. My breathing slowed. For the first time since coming home, I felt steady. Rachel had declared war, and I was finally ready to fight back. She showed up on my doorstep 3 months later, looking nothing like the Rachel I remembered. Her hair, once glossy and styled to perfection, was greasy and matted. Her clothes hung loose, wrinkled, like she'd pulled them out of a hamper. The boyfriend was gone, no big truck, no swagger. Just Rachel, standing in the same spot where we used to drink iced tea on summer nights, her eyes hollow but still trying to carry that familiar arrogance. I opened the door slowly, arms crossed. "Olivia," she said, her voice cracking. "I need to talk to you." My first instinct was to slam the door, but something in me wanted to see this play out. I stepped aside. "You've got 5 minutes." She shuffled inside, glancing around like she expected to find her old life waiting for her. Photos of us on the fridge, our laughter echoing off the walls. But the space had changed. The framed photo of her and me at prom was gone. The little trinkets she'd given me over the years, packed away in a box I shoved into the attic. What remained was me, and only me. She sat on the couch, wringing her hands. I stayed standing, arms crossed, waiting. "I don't know how to say this," she started, "but things haven't gone well for me lately." I raised a brow. "Oh, you don't say." She flinched at my tone, but pressed on. "Eric." So that was the boyfriend's name? He left. Took everything. The apartment's in my name, and I can't afford it on my own. I lost my job. And she trailed off, staring at the floor. "And what?" I asked flatly. Her eyes flicked up, desperate now. "I need help, Olivia. Just a little money. Enough to get me back on my feet." I laughed. I couldn't help it. The sound burst out of me, bitter and sharp, bouncing off the walls. Rachel's face twisted and hurt, but I didn't stop. "You're serious. You steal everything I have, you brag about it, you spit in my face, and now you come crawling back here? For money." "It wasn't like that," she snapped, the old defensive tone rising. Yes, it was exactly like that." I cut in, stepping closer. My voice shook with the fury I'd been holding in for months. "I trusted you with my life, Rachel. My accounts. My home. My everything. And you bled me dry while I was overseas. Do you have any idea how it felt to come back from war and realize the battle I had waiting at home was worse than the one I just fought?" Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't let up. "You paraded around town with my money, like it was your reward for being my friend. You told me to my face you'd do it again. And now that your little fantasy life is blown up in smoke, you think you can knock on my door and play the victim?" Her tears spilled over, streaking her cheeks. "I didn't mean for it to go this far. I thought I deserved something. I thought you'd always forgive me." "Forgive you?" I hissed. "Rachel, forgiveness isn't a blank check. And you cashed every damn one until there was nothing left." She sobbed then, shoulders shaking, the proud mask crumbling for the first time. For a flicker of a second, I almost pitied her. Almost. But then I remembered the smirk on her face at the diner. "I'd do it again. You'll never stop me." Those words had burned themselves into my bones. "You've got the wrong house," I said coldly. "Try the Salvation Army. Or better yet, try the mirror. Maybe you'll find what you're really looking for there." I moved to open the door, but she jumped up, grabbing my arm. "Please. Olivia, please. I've got nowhere else to go. You're my best friend." I ripped my arm free, my voice rising. "You stopped being my best friend the day you decided your jealousy was worth more than my trust." Her face crumpled, and she fell to her knees right there in my living room. "I'll do anything. I'll pay you back. Just give me a chance." The sight of her begging should have satisfied me, but instead, it left me hollow. This wasn't the Rachel I'd wanted to destroy. This was a shell, broken and pitiful. The Rachel who'd betrayed me was still in there somewhere, I knew it. She was just hiding behind the tears. I shook my head slowly. "No, you don't get a second chance. Not with me." I opened the door wide. "Get out." She stumbled to her feet, sobbing, and staggered past me. As she stepped onto the porch, she turned back, her eyes wild. "You'll regret this. You think you're better than me, but you're not. You're just as alone as I am." The door slammed behind her before she could finish. I stood there, my heart pounding, my hands trembling. The house was silent except for the echo of her words. Alone. The truth of it stung. But I wasn't going to let her weaponize my loneliness anymore. That night, I sat at my kitchen table again, staring at the piles of evidence I'd gathered against her. I'd been patient, but Rachel's visit shifted something in me. She wasn't just reckless. She was desperate. And desperate people make mistakes. I decided it was time to move. The next week, I met with a lawyer. I slid the folder across his polished desk, every bank statement, every screenshot, every damning piece of proof. He flipped through the pages, his brows climbing higher. "You've got quite a case here," he said finally. "She could be looking at serious charges." A strange calm settled over me. Good. She deserves every second of it. The process wasn't quick. Lawyers, court filings, investigators, it all took time. But I didn't mind. For the first time since I'd come home, I wasn't flailing in the wreckage Rachel left behind. I was steering the ship. Word got around town. Rachel's friends started whispering. Some avoided me, ashamed. Others quietly offered support. And every now and then, I caught glimpses of Rachel herself. Gaunt, jittery, eyes darting like a trapped animal. The confident mask was gone. She was unraveling, thread by thread. One night, as I left the grocery store, she cornered me in the parking lot. "You think you can ruin me?" she hissed, her voice low but venomous. "You think you can just drag me through the mud after everything I've done for you?" I leveled my gaze at her. "You ruined yourself, Rachel. I'm just shining a light on the mess you made." Her hands shook, fists clenched at her sides. "You'll pay for this. I swear you will." I stepped closer, my voice a steady blade. "No, Rachel. For once in your life, you're the one who's going to pay." She faltered, the fire in her eyes flickering out for just a moment. Then she turned and stormed off into the night. Driving home, I realized something. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about reclaiming myself. She'd stolen my trust, my security, even my sense of belonging. But every step I took toward justice was a step back to me. Weeks turned into months, the court date inching closer. I prepared myself, not just with paperwork, but with resolve. No matter how many tears she shed, no matter how many excuses she spun, I wouldn't waver. Because here's the truth Rachel never understood. Strength isn't in the ability to destroy someone. It's in the ability to survive their destruction and rise anyway. And I was rising. The courthouse smelled like old paper and polished wood, the kind of smell that carried history and weight. I sat at the plaintiff's table, back straight, hands folded in my lap, even though my palms were damp with sweat. Across from me, Rachel slouched in her chair, whispering frantically to her public defender. She looked thinner than I remembered, her face sallow, dark circles under her eyes. But the moment she noticed me watching, her chin lifted, and there it was again, the ghost of that smug smile. The bailiff called the courtroom to order, and everything inside me tensed. This was it. Months of preparation, of gathering evidence, of swallowing my anger so it could burn into something sharper. All of it led here. The prosecutor stood and began laying out the case. Every withdrawal, every transfer, every frivolous purchase tied directly to Rachel's access to my accounts. My stomach churned as the numbers rolled off his tongue, amounts I had earned with sweat and blood overseas, siphoned away for champagne bottles and vacations I never took. Rachel's lawyer objected here and there, tried to poke holes, but the evidence was solid. I'd made sure of it. When it was my turn to testify, I walked to the stand with my heart hammering in my ears. I swore in, sat down, and took a breath. The prosecutor asked me to explain what had happened in my own words. "My name is Olivia Carter," I began, my voice steadier than I expected. "I served 2 tours overseas with the U.S. Army. While I was deployed, I trusted my best friend, Rachel Jennings, with power of attorney over my finances. I believed she would safeguard my life here while I was risking it abroad. Instead, my throat tightened, but I pushed on. Instead, she drained my accounts. When I returned home, I had nothing. Not just money, trust, stability, all of it gone. She left me to rebuild from ashes." As I spoke, I caught Rachel's eyes. She rolled them, muttered something to her lawyer, but I didn't stop. I told the court about the moment I discovered the empty accounts, the confrontation at the diner, the words that haunted me. "I do it again. You'll never stop me." I didn't embellish. I didn't need to. The truth was heavy enough. When the prosecutor showed the stack of bank statements and social media photos, the courtroom murmured. A judge silenced them, but the weight of judgment hung in the air. Rachel's lawyer finally stood for cross-examination. "Ms. Carter," he said smoothly, "isn't it true you gave Ms. Jennings full access to your accounts?" "Yes," I answered, "because I trusted her." "So, in effect, she had your permission to use those funds?" I clenched my jaw. She had permission to manage my bills, to protect my finances, not to bleed them dry for personal gain. He smirked faintly. "But you never set specific boundaries, did you?" "I didn't think I needed to," I shot back. "I didn't think my best friend of 20 years would betray me while I was serving my country." The lawyer shifted uncomfortably, and I knew the jury felt that blow. When my testimony ended, I stepped down, legs shaky, but heart steadier than it had been in months. Then Rachel took the stand. She swore in with a practiced calm, smoothed her skirt, and turned on the waterworks before her first answer left her lips. "I never meant to hurt Olivia," she began, her voice soft, trembling. I was overwhelmed. She left me with so much responsibility. I panicked. Sometimes I used the money, yes, but I always thought I'd pay it back when things got better." I almost laughed out loud. She went on, weaving her story like a spider spinning silk. She painted herself as the abandoned friend, the one left behind to shoulder everything while I was off chasing glory. She talked about late nights paying my bills, about loneliness, about feeling like my servant instead of my equal. And then she turned to me, tears glistening under the courtroom lights. "I loved you, Olivia. You were my family. I never wanted it to end like this." For a moment, I almost believed her. That was Rachel's talent. She could make lies sound like gospel. But then I remembered the smirk, the arrogance, the venom she spat when she thought I was too weak to fight back. The prosecutor tore into her narrative, presenting receipts, screenshots, proof of vacations and shopping sprees that didn't exactly scream responsibility. Rachel squirmed, but held onto her tears like a shield. The trial stretched over days. Each time Rachel tried to play the victim, evidence dismantled her claims. Each time her lawyer painted me as careless, I stood firm, unflinching. But the real test came the day Rachel cornered me outside the courthouse. I was walking to my car when she slipped out from behind a pillar. "You think this makes you strong?" she hissed, her voice raw, stripped of courtroom theatrics. "Dragging me through the mud in front of everyone? You're pathetic, Olivia. You always have been." I squared my shoulders. "Strong isn't letting someone walk all over you, Rachel. Strong is standing up when they try." Her face twisted, rage bubbling through her tears. "You're going to regret this. If I go down, I'll take you with me." I stepped closer, eyes locked on hers. "You already tried. You took everything from me, remember? And I'm still standing." She faltered, jaw trembling, before storming off into the parking lot. When the closing arguments wrapped, I sat in silence, every nerve stretched taut. The jury deliberated for hours that felt like years. My hands shook so badly, I had to clasp them together to keep from trembling. Finally, the foreman stood and read the verdict. Guilty. On multiple counts. Rachel collapsed into her chair, sobbing. Her lawyer patted her shoulder, but she shrugged him off, glaring at me with eyes that promised venom. I didn't gloat. I didn't smile. I just exhaled, a weight lifting from my chest that I hadn't realized I'd been carrying for so long. The judge sentenced her to restitution, probation, community service. Not jail, not this time, but enough to strip away the illusion she'd built for herself. Enough to make her pay. As the gavel fell, Rachel turned to me one last time. Her face was blotched with tears, but her voice was sharp as glass. This isn't over. I held her gaze unflinching. For me, it is. Walking out of that courthouse, the sun felt brighter, the air clearer. For the first time in years, I wasn't dragging the weight of her betrayal behind me. But here's the thing about scars, they don't vanish. They remind you, every time you look, of the wound that made them. And Rachel was a scar I'd carry forever. Still, scars are proof of survival. Proof that I didn't just endure her betrayal, I overcame it. And as I drove away, leaving her behind in that courthouse, I knew one truth above all others. She had underestimated me. She thought I'd break. Instead, I rose. And I wasn't done rising. The courthouse felt like the closing of a book, but in truth, it was just another chapter. I walked out of that building lighter, yes, but not free. Not yet. Rachel had been found guilty, ordered to pay restitution, sentenced to community service. On paper, it looked like justice. In my heart, I knew it wasn't over. Because Rachel wasn't the kind of person who accepted consequences. She was the kind who twisted them into excuses, who spun failure into another story where she was the victim. I'd seen it in her eyes when the gavel fell. Defiance, rage, a promise that she'd claw back somehow. For weeks, I waited for her to make her move. I slept light, jumped when my phone buzzed, checked over my shoulder in grocery store aisles. Nothing happened at first. Then the whispers started. Mutual friends told me Rachel was bad-mouthing me, spreading lies about how I framed her, how I'd manipulated the court with fake evidence. She claimed I'd ruined her life out of jealousy, that I couldn't stand seeing her happy. At first, it stung. But soon, I realized something. Nobody really believed her. Not anymore. People had seen enough of the truth. Her sudden wealth, her fall from grace, her theatrics in court. The more she talked, the smaller she looked. But Rachel was never one to settle for small. One evening, I came home from work to find my mailbox stuffed with shredded paper. Old bills, ripped in half, my name scrawled over with black marker. My porch light had been smashed. On the doormat lay a single envelope. Inside it a photo of us, me and her at 17, arms slung around each other's shoulders, smiling wide. Across it in red ink, traitor. I sat on the porch steps, the photo trembling in my hand. For the first time since the trial, fear slithered back in. She wasn't done. I reported it to the police. They made notes, promised to keep an eye out, but without cameras or witnesses, it was just another incident. I left the station feeling hollow. The next day, I installed security cameras around the house. I double-checked the locks, reinforced the doors. I refused to be caught off guard again. If Rachel wanted to wage war in the shadows, I'd be ready. But then something unexpected happened. 2 weeks later, I saw her in the parking lot of the grocery store. Not strutting, not smirking, just sitting on the curb with her head in her hands. A crumpled fast food bag beside her. Her clothes were dirty, her hair unwashed. She looked like a ghost of herself. I could have walked past. I wanted to. But she lifted her head at the sound of my footsteps, and our eyes locked. For a heartbeat, it was like we were kids again, two girls who thought the world was theirs. Then the memory shattered. "Olivia," she rasped, her voice barely carrying. "Please. I don't have anywhere left to go." I froze. Every instinct screamed at me to keep walking. But some part of me, some wounded, foolish part stopped. That's not my problem anymore. Her eyes filled with tears. "I know I screwed up. I know I hurt you. But I've lost everything. Eric's gone. My parents won't talk to me. I'm sleeping in my car. I haven't eaten in 2 days. My chest tightened, but I forced my voice steady. You did that to yourself, Rachel. She crawled closer on her knees, right there in the dirty parking lot. Please. I'll pay you back. I'll do whatever you want. Just don't leave me like this. Something inside me snapped. Months of anger, grief, betrayal, all of it surged forward. I crouched down so we were eye to eye, and for once, she couldn't look away. You think this is rock bottom? No. This is the start of consequences. You stole my money, my trust, my peace of mind. And when I begged you to tell me why, you laughed. You told me you'd do it again. Remember that. She flinched. I leaned closer. I am not your savior. I am not your safety net. Not anymore. If you want to crawl out of the hole you dug, you'll have to do it yourself. Her tears spilled, soaking her cheeks. I can't. Yes, you can. You just don't want to. I stood, my heart pounding, my voice low but firm. You're not my responsibility anymore. You lost that right the day you betrayed me. She collapsed back onto the curb, sobbing. People were staring now, whispering as they passed, but I didn't care. I walked to my car, climbed in, and drove away without looking back. That night, I cried too. Not for Rachel, for myself. For the years I wasted believing she'd always have my back. For the version of me that thought friendship was unbreakable. Grief doesn't disappear with a guilty verdict. It lingers, sharp edges cutting when you least expect it. But as the weeks passed, something shifted. The fear loosened its grip. The camera stayed, the locks stayed, but the dread began to fade. I stopped waiting for Rachel to strike again. Instead, I started living. I went back to school, picking up night classes in social work. I volunteered more at the VA, helping other veterans find their footing after deployment. I even made new friends, slowly, cautiously, but real friends who didn't ask for my bank login or treat me like a safety net. Rachel didn't vanish entirely. I heard bits and pieces, rumors of her bouncing between shelters, burning bridges with anyone who tried to help. Once, I spotted her at the edge of town, hitchhiking on the highway. She didn't see me. I didn't stop. The last time our paths crossed was 6 months later. I was sitting in a cafe, laptop open, when I felt someone hovering at my table. I looked up, and there she was. Her face was gaunt, her eyes dull. She didn't bother pretending this time. I just wanted to say I'm sorry, she whispered. Not for the money. Not for the lies. For not being the friend you thought I was. I stared at her, searching for sincerity, for even a shred of the girl I once knew. All I found was emptiness. Goodbye, Rachel, I said softly. She nodded, tears spilling silently, then walked out the door. I never saw her again. Driving home that night, I realized something. Rachel had been right about one thing. We were both alone. But the difference was, I wasn't broken by it. I had rebuilt myself, stronger, sharper, more guarded maybe, but whole. She had crumbled under the weight of her own choices. Revenge hadn't been about destroying her. It had been about reclaiming me. And I had. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't see the woman Rachel left behind anymore. I saw someone who had walked through betrayal, fire, and ashes, and come out the other side still standing. That was my victory. That was my revenge. And that was enough. If you followed Olivia's journey all the way to the end, you know this wasn't just a story about betrayal. It was about strength, survival, and reclaiming your own power. If it hit you in the gut, if it reminded you of your own battles, or if you simply want to hear more stories like this one, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss the next chapter we bring to life. And drop a comment down below. Tell us where you're watching from, and if you've ever had to rise up after someone you trusted tried to tear you down. Your story matters here.